And that brings us to our next speaker. Klaus Riediger is here, an expert for official food control in the field of novel food, food supplements and food of plant origin. And he will talk a bit more about these other things that we heard, like these other substances. We heard it in the talk of Ana Afonso this morning, that vitamins and minerals are quite clearly marked, but there is, she said, like a conservative guess of more than 400 other substances, and that is pretty much work in progress too, right? He will give us an overview. Thanks for that, Klaus Riediger.
Yeah. So it's really a pleasure for me to be invited here as a speaker. Thank you so much, BVL and BFR. 20 years of both of these units. The same situation is also for my unit, Austrian Agency for Health and Food Safety. Also this year, we have 20 years. I started in 2002, so I'm really within the agency in Austria for 20 years. And I'm dealing really since 20 years with the novel food topic. It's not an easy topic. I think you can imagine it. But it's a very interesting one, and I'm really happy that I'm able now to present the Stofflisten, so the classification of other substances in the DACH lists of substances and other lists on the national level. So I think this is really a brilliant work together with the colleagues from Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And I'm really happy to be involved in this project because I think we deal not easy stuff, and together we are more easily able to put that in a professional way. So I put it always in my slides. It's not so easy stuff sometimes, and it's not completely accorded in any way sometimes, but I think it should be fine. So I told you that I'm working since 20 years. I'm dealing with the novel food topic, not only also with food supplements with my colleagues. Of course, there are also colleagues in my agency dealing with novel foods in the risk assessment body, so I'm more or less the man on the front, having sometimes contact with colleagues in the industry, people in the industry, a lot of questions. Of course, we are connected deeply with the Ministry also of Health in Austria. Here you can see our main buildings, about 700 people working there in Vienna. And not only food safety is a part, also agriculture, also veterinarians, medicine control is in Austria also done from my agency. So, but also here you can see the members of this DACH list photo was taken some years ago. Now we are a bigger team. So I'm really happy that I'm also involved in that team. For the overview, I think we skip it now because we go directly into it now. For the botanicals, I think we talked a lot today. There are many specificities. Just think about but also about different varieties. This is also a question, cultivars and the geographical areas. We will see an example that it's not so easy to get the same botanical maybe when it's exotic and you grew it up maybe in Austria. So it's not easy. And you get a lot of different levels for substances, so you have to take care on that. Also, yes, of course, different plant parts. When we eat the fruit of tomatoes, it's fine, but the leaves of tomatoes, oh my God, would be poisonous. I think this is clear. We have to take care on the different plant parts, and believe me, more and more it's common that some plant parts want to be used, which are not so common. Yeah? And think also on phytochemical compounds. Of course, we have a huge difference on hydrophilic, lipophilic character. Just think on that, that of course, when we think on cannabis maybe cannabinoids are lipophilic, but maybe some other ingredients are hydrophilic. So we have really to take care on that, and we have to dig into it. And it's not so easy to have a list for everything. So we have to think about what is the product, yeah? What we have on the table, what we have to think about. Also, the different types of extractions. So we have maybe ethanolic, water, but also carbon dioxide we mentioned today, it creates different products. And as I also discussed with Simon earlier, so sometimes extracts are created which are really poor compounds. That's a different story. That is not a normal plant. Okay, that is maybe the beginning. And of course, we have very few clinical studies on this topic, botanicals, sometimes only on the poor compounds. And it's not easy to distinguish and to know about the safety, of course, for this kind of things. And yeah, substances responsible for adverse positive effects, it's often really not known. We have, maybe in some plants, we have hundreds of substances, and believe me, it is not an easy task. Therefore, again, I'm happy that there are projects in the European Union, and not only in the European Union, like Simon pointed it out, on the whole world. I think it's clearly stated that we need more experts and more lists, maybe more professionality. This example, maybe, I think is interesting because I was conflicted with a farmer in Austria. He was growing up chia plants. And his idea was to sell smoothies with the leaves of the chia plant. But, okay, this is not traditionally used in South America, where they grow traditionally the chia plants. They only use the seeds. And the leaves they taste like sage, so they would be maybe tasty, but it's not a common use. And therefore, clearly, statement from my side, take care when you grew up a plant. Maybe you don't get what you want, but you are not able to use anything you want, yeah? So the sprouts or something like that. No, it's not fine to do that because we don't have experience and we don't know about the safety. For the legal background, I think we heard a lot of it today, and I will really go very quick on it in this slide. Maybe starting with the many, many positive and negative lists we have in the European Union and in other countries. But there is anyway no real clear harmonization, and that's a big problem for these other substances. Even for vitamins and minerals, we know that there are problems. But especially, believe me, for the botanical products, it's not so funny and easy. What is really important, and we will have later a presentation on it, for this medicinal, to determine if something is a medicine or not. Oh my God, this is so an easy task. And it's not harmonized, it's really not. So all the member states are doing that job, and I think especially we have to really tackle that out. It's not in the responsibility of EFSA or EMA to do that. And believe me, also we had some novel food applications where it was not clear if it was really a food. So EFSA was evaluating that stuff, and then the member states found out, ooh, this product is not really in food definition. That is maybe not a good idea, and therefore I think it's so important that clearly it is indicated what kind of product will be here authorized, and in advance it should be checked. And EFSA is doing that now more professionally, believe me. So it's not an easy story. For the health claims, I think you know most of them on botanicals are on hold. And yeah, we heard also about botanicals, general food law applies, but also novel food regulation. I think that's clear. Also, we heard about this regulation, and I think, but what is maybe of interest, Germany tried to put that on to EFSA for 10 plants, and only 2 were then really evaluated by EFSA. Why that happened? Because food industry really clearly stated that the other 8 plants are not normal food, let's say. They are not really used normally in food, like Datura stramonium, a plant which is really containing tropan alkaloids. Nowadays it is regulated by the contaminant regulation. Okay, so only 2 were then evaluated by EFSA. And what is really maybe of fun, no, it's not fun. What is really of importance, let's say, it was ephedra and ephedra was completely in the first direction in the part A, so prohibited. Yohimbe was in part C in the beginning. And part C, you have to think that maybe it needs some more years to be evaluated more strict. And also for Yohimbe, the outcome was it is also a prohibited plant. So it went from C to A. And I just want to show you this slide that in the year 2015, it was in the part C, and then it came into the part A. So this document is changing, I want to say. It's changing, and you can see here the newest version. So there are more things in it, but we heard about that in EFSA presentation, and we go further on. The last slide to legal aspects. General aspects to use this Germany, Austrian, and Switzerland list of substances. Still, it is necessary to make a case-by-case classification. Still, when you are selling maybe food supplements, you have to take care if it's a selective extract or something like that. That's clear. So there is the primary legal responsibility by the food operator. And the legal aspect of the Dach list of substances, it is a non-legally binding guide, but I think it's a good guide, it's a nice guide, and it gives you good information. And when there are deviations from the classifications in these lists, then the food business operator should really justify it. So now here we can see the different versions. The first version was published in 2014. It was about 590 plants were contained in it. And there was, of course, also a decision tree we will see after very quick. And the work was done in Germany alone. But anyway, in this time I was invited as a speaker for Austria, and I was really very happy that some years later we were asked if we could contribute to this working group, let's say. It was great. It is not legally binding, I told you. And in English version, it's the only English version we have now. But it will change, so even the latest one will soon be translated, I'm really sure. For the second version, we see on the right side, you can see mushrooms are in it, fungi. So we have now, in the second version, we have the second version of the plants and the first version of the fungi, mushrooms. And there also experts from Austria and Switzerland were involved. And yeah, you can see here 870 plants and 280 fungi, so quite a high number. And what I can tell you, that also the relevant monographs were updated when you think on medicinal classifications, but also other member state lists were really, we were digging in it in these lists, and we were discussing the plants and also the fungi, which should be inserted in this second version. It was also done in the first version, but I think more deep than in the second version. Now we have the third version of this Stoffliste, and it's containing now also algae. So for algae, it's the first list. For the plants, it's still the second list. For the fungi, it's still the first list, but we have the third list, third, let's say, forward. So we had to change the forward a bit. And what I think is of interest is that we have a lot of external experts. I think really this is also of importance. So we have professors dealing with algae, with mushrooms, and also plants inside of our expert panel, let's say. Maybe what I want to tell you is also that you find this version in a commenting phase. So it will very soon it will be updated, I'm quite sure, in a final version, of course. We have a meeting end of July. Yeah. Now we go a bit into the detail. First of all, what I have on my table? That is the first question. Is it really food? So first of all, exclusion principle. So I have to think about narcotics, psychotropic substances, medicinal products. So this is really of importance because you lose a lot of time when you don't do that step in the first advance. So then it's written in the general food law. Food is not medicine, yeah, okay? And then, of course, we have to think on novel foods. Is it really, is it a novel food? Is it a approved novel food? Is it a non-approved novel food? Then it needs authorization, otherwise it's not legal. So we have to check it. Then, of course, we have to think on Article 14 of the General Food Law. Is it a safe food? And if this is not the case, then it's a substance which is really marketable as food. Yeah. And more complex, this is in the decision tree. It looks really complex. In reality, it's not so complex because I don't have too much time. I will not talk too much about it. But safe food, unsafe food, medicinal product, novel food. And you see the colors I used also for here. These are the questions for medicines. These are the questions for unsafe food. So in the end, when you are green, it's fine. When you are green and maybe a bit yellow, we have to think about the doses or something like that. So in the end, this list is really a good one, but you need some time to discuss it, to go into the deep details. And therefore, I will go further on to this one. We were talking about that one in reality. First of all, we have food. You can use that food, of course, without restrictions. Maybe you know aronia berries, black chokeberries in English. Fruit, of course, is normal. Anyway, I think you should not eat maybe 5 kilograms of it, but it's a safe food. Avena sativa, also you know it, oat, fine. So when we go now to the novel foods, you need an authorization for novel foods. And believe me, if you would use the tea tree leaf, not as food supplement, but you want to use that maybe in a, I don't know, in a beverage or something like that, it would be regarded as a novel food and you would have to authorize that. Rubus fructicosus, if you would use the roots of that plant, they would be regarded as novel food. And Rubus glaucus, which is quite well known in the South American states, in Peru or something like that, the Andean raspberry fruit is clearly a novel food. It's not authorized. For the medicinal product, we have also the traditional medicines. They need also the concept of tradition of use as a medicine in third countries. So, believe me, again, it's not easy to tell in your expert opinion to write down it's clearly a medicine, the product. The colleagues dealing with the medicine, they're digging very deep in it, and the list gives you indications, and that is really, I think, the main topic now. It gives you indications how these plants are used. And many of these plants are used as medicine, like Urtica dioica, the stinging nettle, the root, it is a medicine. It's a medicinal plant. And of course, chamomilla, you know, you use it for preparing a herbal infusion. But anyway, also traditional medicinal uses are known, maybe in higher dosages or something like that. Also here, further classifications, we were talking about this regulation 1925-2006. We have the list A, B, and C. So list A, prohibited, you should not use it. It's not recommended to use that. We have here 2 plants which are described. I can tell you that one plant is containing gyanotoxins and the other one alkenes. But in the end, these plants you should never use in food. So list A. List B, Some plants you can use, of course, in food, but you have to think about the dosage. And here, Borago officinalis, I think, is a really very important example. It's traditionally used, maybe in Germany especially, for sometimes you consume it as a sauce, but borage is in reality a bit problematic because of pyrrolizidine alkaloids. And the levels are quite high in that plant, and I think should not consume too much of that. For Boswellia serrata, I think you know that plant. Of course, it's a typical food supplement plant and should be not used in too high amounts also because of these compounds containing it in the resin. For the list C, sometimes it's not clear if the safety is really established. For the Stofflisten, I can tell you when plants are used only in food supplements maybe we put the plants more or less in the list C. When we think about other uses, it's clear because, of course, food supplement use is only, when it's only used in food supplements and it should be used in other foods, it should be a novel food authorization. But in the end, here you have some examples. Also, Rhodiola rosea. It's a typical plant for food supplements. Maybe they use it in herbal infusions. In our view, it's not authorized. It should not be used in the herbal infusion. And also the blueberry leaves are inside of this part. Classification as food, very quick now. Of course, I think it is also a very, very important part in the Stofflisten that there is also indication how the plants are used. And just think about some plants maybe only flavor a bit. So maybe they are used for spirits or something like that. So known as a flavoring, the meaning is that really only not very high amounts are used, only very, very few. And known for spice, I think you know spices, so we are not in India. Normally, we don't take huge amounts of spices in our cuisine. Also, we have this coloring agent, it's a bit like that. So we have herbal infusions where you use maybe some flowers which are colorful and coloring the herbal infusion, let's say. So I put also the German short form that you can use now, the Stofflisten. Even you are not able to talk too much in German language, you understand what is inside of the list, because it will translate it, but in maybe 2-3 months, I don't know exactly. So when you take a look now, you find the German versions. So you find maybe NEM for food supplement. Yeah. Okay, but I think it's clear, all of these kind of uses are not on a high level. So they are lower dosages, and therefore I think it's important that it's stated in the lists. Here you can see all the members of the Stoffliste from the official food control parts, I would say. So from Germany, from BFL. So Sarah Urmersbach is heading it here. Yeah, Sarah. And of course also the colleagues from Switzerland are addressed. We are now 2 in Switzerland and in Austria, so that's also a good story. And of course BFR and also colleagues from BFARM and from the control authorities in food control are involved from Germany. Yeah. Here are the experts, the professors, let's say, and also some really very good experts now they are pensionists, but still they are working in the Stoffliste. And you can see also by color what expert field they have, so for algae or for plants, mushrooms, yeah. And here again, it's the newest version. It's in the commenting phase. The commenting phase is finished. It was finished in the middle of April, And now we have to work on that. Sarah, we will have a meeting end of July for the algae group. So I was getting the email, I think, this week. We work on this, all this kind of outcome. It's not a big issue, I think. And also for the forward, only some aspects, but not a lot to do. And I think then there will be a new publication for the third version. And now take a look into the algae list. Algae list contains 61 entries. And in the end, also other lists of other countries were used, like the list from Belgium, France, Switzerland. But also there is, of course, very important this Centec TTC 454 from Norms. This list was also used. And the GRC, which is from the Commission. Of course, they do the lab control. They give you hints how to analyze. The GRC also worked on a harmonized list, let's say. And, of course, we used also the Novel Food Union list and the Novel Food Catalog. So inside of this algae list, you find, like for all the other lists, you find information how these plants, the algae, are used. So maybe like a medicine, or here you see list B, so it should be, take care on it, maybe not in too high amounts. And there is also described why there are some problems. So here for microcystins or toxins could be in the plant when it's maybe not well produced. And I think also for the classification, very important here, it's a microalgae. It's also described here. And it's a blue algae. So it's in the list you find a lot of information. And here also you have some other algae. And here it's also described that this kind of algae is maybe not novel in food supplements, but we will see there are some commands. And you see here, it's authorized novel food, but this is a special extract, so fluorotannin. So you can see everything is inside of the list, clearly described what kind of uses are for these algae. And yeah, also for these plant lists, maybe very quick, you find all the informations inside of this homepage. You have to read the foreword, and then you get into the plant lists alphabetically. And here, maybe borago, we were talking about borago, borage, and it's clearly indicated that it should be used only as a spice-like, in very less amounts, not too much. And also for borago, it's clearly stated the use of herb, and on the other side, the seeds. Maybe there are some comments even how the plant should be used. And you see here also for boswellia, we were also talking about, it's clearly indicated not novel food supplement, but it is also used as a medicinal plant. It's in list B, like the borago plant also. And here you can read also about the risks. It's clearly described, and also about the entries in the medicinal sector. Here about pyridine alkaloids. And for pharmacological active dose, it's also described here. I think that the most important thing is what we discussed before. It's a case-by-case decision, and the list gives you information. Okay? For fungi, the first edition, you can find here also the information that we used, different lists from Belgium, from Italy, from Austria, Sweden, and the UK, and created this plant, this mushroom list. And the decision tree is the same. But there is also a distinction between fungus and lichen. And maybe also of interest, you have these red lists when maybe some mushrooms in the outer world are endangered species. Of course, you should not collect them. Yeah, it's described clearly in the lists, and I think that is also a good story that it's also inside of this list. Yeah, and also the conditions of use are clearly indicated. I think this is for mushrooms really important, that you should heat them, that you should not eat more than maybe, I don't know. Yeah, so I think this is really important. You should eat only the young ones when they are white. It's described here, yeah? So, okay, I think this information is really good information. So, and now, coming to the end, the problematic issue, but we have a lot of, so we have these heads of the agency working group also digging into that scenario of the botanicals. But anyway, we have a lot of different lists in the member states, and there is really no single exhaustive list on botanicals available in the literature. That's really a problematic issue. And these national lists vary greatly. We have lists only maybe for food supplements. We have lists which are maybe for food and food supplements, only for foods maybe, like for herbal infusions or mushrooms. We have maybe only lists classified as medicinal. So you see, it's not so easy. Maybe we have negative lists, positive lists, and maybe we have some really outdated lists, honestly, so they are too old. And sometimes it's also not easy to get into the lists because maybe you don't understand the language or you are not able to find it really. Believe me, we are digging a long time. We were searching for all kinds of lists. It's not so easy. Here, Belfrit. Belfrit project, I think it was 2014 when it was created, when it was finalized. Yeah, time. And it's a cooperation between Belgium, France, and Italy. And I can tell you that it's a good cooperation, of course, a good story. But in the end, even the colleagues from Belgium, France, and Italy have some problems, to be honest. For harmonization, it's not so easy in the end. And I think the classification is not completely in line in the different countries. And yeah. But in the end, you can see here also an overview of different national lists, positive lists. I will not dig into it now too much, but I can tell you it's really not so easy to find all of them. When you find them, you get maybe some more information. We tried to really tackle all of these kind of lists in the German Stoffliste together with Austria, Switzerland. So I think what we should think on the outlook now, we are really regularly updating the published documents. The final publication of the algae list in the 3rd edition of the foreword will come soon. The translation will be done in English quite soon. The transfer of the list to a database will also come, for sure. And also other substances, new ones, will also inserted, discussed, and there will even, in the future, maybe some other further lists, maybe for insects, I don't know, for animals, or I don't know. Thank you so much. I think I will start now only to tell you that you have an annex. The annex you use, please. You have a lot of information in the links about botanicals, plants, fungi, algae. Dig into the different web pages, really good ones, I think. You have also here the other lists from the member states. You have also GRC document on algae here. And novel food, I tell you, you can use it in English also from Austria. And from all the different kind of countries, from Germany, Switzerland. And this project I'm not able to tell you now too much. You can ask me after, maybe in the pause. It's a list about wild plants and flowers we created in Austria. Uneasy stuff. Oh my God. Completely uneasy stuff. But it happens. And that's the problem. It's an emerging risk. People are collecting them. They are going into the wild. And maybe people 100 years ago, they were more knowledgeable. But nowadays, they have a book or an app, make a photo, and think they are the chiefs. And then they take the wrong plants. And therefore, we decided to create this list in Austria. And Susanne Till, the lady here, is also a member of the Stoffliste. And she is really very, 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 very good colleague. And I think just take a look on this. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Klaus Riediger.